coach preach a lot about the climb, and we're not there yet. And 81 is good, but, 91 sounds a little better to me. Yeah.
Are rolling 7 in a row and currently on top of the Mountain West Conference. We've got all of the highlights of the big win on the road.
And volleyball suffered a rare loss on the road Saturday. Can the team put it behind them as they prepare for the postseason play?
And women's basketball is underway. See how the Rams did in their first exhibition game.
You're watching CTV Sports!
Good evening and thanks for watching CTV Sports. I'm Travis Green.
And I'm Patches O'Houlihan. California is usually a nice spot to escape the cold front range, but San Jose was far from sunny and tropical when the CSU football team was there on Saturday. That didn't affect the Rams, though, because they are red hot. Riding a 6-game win streak, CSU was out west to take care of business. The Rams got off to a slow start here, though, with a very poor special teams play. This punt bounced off a Ram, and the Spartans were able to recover. Then Mack made a questionable call after this play and ordered a fake field goal.
I made the call for a fake field goal down there when we were on about whatever the 7 on the right hash, and it was proven kicker's a better kicker than he is a catcher.
The offense was able to get it rolling, though, with the help of D. Hart, who finished with 4 touchdowns on the ground. And let's check it out as he powers through the end zone on this one, really finishing strong. The Rams faithful in San Jose were loving it, though. They even got a little help from the Spartan quarterback, who decided it would be a good idea and just flips it right to Aaron Davis. Nice try, and we're going to bring it back, a little slow motion. Aaron Davis with the mittens here and just grabbing that. San Jose did fight back, though, to bring the game within 7 and threaten late, but then the Rams got a defensive stop to seal the victory. Travis, I thought this victory would be enough to get this Rams team in the top 25, but it wasn't.
Well, we talked about it last week. We wanted to see this Rams team go out there and get a double-digit win to really show those voters we should be in the top 25, and it didn't wind up happening against this San Jose State team, a team that the Rams definitely should have had a double-digit victory over.
Yeah, and we can see them kind of ranking up against some other great teams there in the top 25. In the last 17 games, they come within 5, right behind Marshall there, 14-3. But yeah, Trav, I agree. They should have probably won by 2 or 3 touchdowns. And ECU, another team out of the Power 5 conferences, had a loss. So a lot of the Rams faithful thought CSU would slip in there, but I guess not. And it was kind of a bummer to see. But I think if they keep winning, they should be good.
Should be good. Well, Coach Mack is just happy to get some recognition with votes, and he thinks the ranking will follow.
Part of what we have to do every single week is come out and change the way people think. And, we're kind of doing that. And the fact I think we're on that edge is a very positive thing, and yet it can turn like that.
One of the concerns about next week is the health of some key players. Max said in the press conference earlier today that Rashard Higgins is doubtful for Saturday. How big of an impact will this be without Higgins in this CSU Rams offense?
You could just hear the murmurs around northern Colorado when you saw Rashard Higgins walk off the field in that 4th quarter. I mean, that is a bummer because he is obviously one of your best weapons and maybe one of the best weapons in the NCAA. So for him to go down is a bummer. They do have lots of other players who can kind of step up. But Travis, yeah, this is not good. Going into the end of the season, hopefully he can kind of heal up with these easier games down the stretch. But your thoughts?
Well, as we're seeing here, we're losing statistically the best receiver in the nation with touchdowns and receiving yards. It's going to be tough to make up the big play ability. He has over 19 yards per reception. He's an explosive play just waiting to happen. But playing in these next games, it's Hawaii and New Mexico. I don't know if we'll need as many explosive plays to beat those teams. So I'm kind of thinking that Xavier Williams will be able to fill his shoes, and we'll see Joe Hansley and Charles Lovett, I think, stay in their usual positions of Hansley in the slot and Lovett as the number 2 receiver. They've done great in those positions, so I'd like to see a guy like Xavier Williams step up and take the shoes if he has to.
Well, and speaking of him being one of the best receivers in the nation, this could hurt his attempt for the Bolitnikov. He needs to be in every game, especially playing in the Mountain West and putting up those major numbers. So if he can't play one game, that could really hurt his Bolitnikov opportunity. And of course, we saw Grayson limping around as well at the game on Saturday. He's listed as probable, but he needs to get more protection from this offensive line, Travis.
Absolutely. As we're seeing here, Grayson got hit a lot in this one. He got injured early on in this game, and he seemed to fight his way through the injury and have a great game, 22 for 28 in this game. You're seeing why he is a senior. He's got so much composure out there and always makes the right decision, it seems like, Grayson. Still only 5 interceptions on the season. And as you see here, career passing numbers, one of the greatest quarterbacks in CSU history. You can argue with other people like Van Pelt and them, but statistically, Grayson is the best.
Yeah, those are, when he leaves, it'll be very big shoes to fill. But yeah, he needs to finish this season healthy, and like you alluded to with Hawaii, New Mexico, hopefully Nick Stevens can step up in that role, get him some real time, not some mop-up duty like we've seen him in this season. If he can get some real minutes, that'd be great, but that would mean that Grayson is hurt. So as long as Grayson can stay healthy, I think it'll be great for him. And it's his groin, and before it was his shoulder.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can
beat up
stay healthy, because he's getting banged up. And that offensive line really needs to clean it up if he's going to play the rest of the season.
And you said it, Nick Stevens has gotten opportunities this year, and he shined in those opportunities. He hasn't really looked like a freshman. He's a redshirted freshman. He's gone out there and looked like a baby Garrett Grayson in a way. He's gone out there, made the right decisions, and got the ball out to those receivers that make these big plays we've seen all year. So I think he can fill the shoes if he has to against this Hawaii, New Mexico team. As I already said, these are easier games. Obviously, it's a Mountain West game, so the Rams are going to have to win these to stay in contention for the Mountain West Championship. But I think these are the type of games where it can be all right that these big injuries happen right now. It'd be worse if this happened around the Air Force game at the end of the year when you have to go into the bowl season.
Yeah, and it gives guys like Stevens experience, and Hart, he's got to step up as well, because he seemed to step up with Grayson hurting a little, and it was nice to give Garrett Grayson a break, just kind of hand the ball off.
Of course, and that's what you got to do in these times.
We had a lot of injuries in this game, and a lot of guys playing hurt. So, when you have that on the team, it's for the other players amongst the team to kind of pull it together and, get a win.
Was D to this offense last Saturday.
Huge. 4 touchdowns from D. Hart. And at the beginning of the year, we had a lot of question, who is that go-to running back? Trace Geralds, Jason Oden, and D. Hart. And now we're seeing it's D. Hart. He's emerged definitely. Over 20 carries in this game, over 20 carries last week. He's emerged as that go-to guy. And when I see D. Hart run, he reminds me a little bit of an NFL player, Arian Foster. He's got that type of running ability. So I love to see the way D's getting there. And as you're seeing here, he's not afraid of contact.
Yeah, and he really exposed that weak rush defense that San Jose State had. And it's good to see him finish at the goal line, kind of just hit those players straight up. And he's a very physical running back, which is great to see. And this is really just CSU kind of flexing their offensive muscles.
Yeah.
Oh, Rashard Higgins goes down, one of our best offensive players. Well, here, we'll just give it to D. Hart. Or, we have Joe Hansley, Stephen Walker. The list just goes on and on. So I really think it's this CSU team flexing their offensive muscles, which is great to see. And we saw that a little on the defensive end with that great sack of the San Jose State quarterback Gray and the fumble recovery. That was great to see. And there was a few times in the game fans were kind of shaking their heads when the corners kind of got beat, and they kind of got beat a little deep. So that was a little discouraging.
And that's a scary thought, that secondary. This team looks sound everywhere but in the secondary, and if we go off and play a big team in a bowl game down the road, that is, of course, looking forward a lot.
Yeah.
But this secondary, if we play one of those Pac-12 offenses that like to air it out, we saw last year against Washington State, the team pulled it off, but that Washington State has a pretty poor defense against a team, say Oregon. Maybe I'm not saying that's going to be a bowl game, but it would be rough for us to keep up with teams if the secondary keeps getting exposed like this.
Yeah, I really like our D-line. They played great this game, but our corners definitely do need to step it up, because some plays they're looking great and other plays they were not. They were kind of looking lost and kind of letting that deep ball. Gray did for 200+ yards, which is quite a bit. So if they can get a little more consistency is definitely what the secondary needs, because great plays and some weak plays. So if they can step it up, it'll be great, and I think they'll have a strong finish. And that secondary is the only hole I really see.
Hopefully they can fix that secondary in these upcoming games. And coming up, volleyball's upsetting loss on the road.
But find out why the Rams were able to climb in the RPI standings.
Stay tuned.
The next 30 seconds can save you a lot of money. Just do your laundry in cold and stick to full loads. Auto-sleep your computers. plug your gadgets in a power strip and switch it off when you're done. Headed out? Turn back your thermostat by 10 degrees. And drive sensibly. The more energy you save, the more money you save. Find other great tips at energysaver.gov.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Welcome back. You're watching CTV Sports. Halloween isn't the only thing that was haunting the CSU volleyball team last week. The Rams' 18-match win streak came to a screeching halt in Las Vegas on Saturday. This loss most likely drowns out any hope of the Rams hosting a regional this winter, with the Rams falling 3 spots in the AVCA coaches poll to number 10. The Rebels dominated the Rams, winning the final 3 sets after dropping the first. One bright spot for CSU was freshman Jasmine Hanna, who had a career-high 23 kills. The Rams now have a 2.5-game lead in the Mountain West with 6 games left in the season. The Rams will now play one of their final 2 road games this Thursday in Fresno. Now, Patrick, what does this loss mean for the team at the end, this late in the season?
Obviously, it's not what they wanted. They were riding that nice road game win streak, but I think it's definitely a good tool to kind of motivate them, kind of sharpen them up before the postseason. And one thing I saw from this team, they went 9 out of 10 possible sets. That is very uncharacteristic of this CSU volleyball team.
As you said, almost lost at San Diego and then get the loss at UNLV. This is a little scary time for this team to be not playing as well as they have all season. And as we saw last season, this team lost at the end of the year, and all the momentum seemed to be lost by the time the NCAA playoffs turn around, and they wound up losing in the first round of the tournament there. So it's kind of a bad time to get this loss, but the upside is there's 6 games left in the season. They can get some momentum back and ride that hopefully into the tournament.
Yeah, and Travis, do you think they can put it together for postseason play?
I think they can, definitely. With Coach Hilbert, he's a great coach. I think he'll have these ladies ready to go in this season. As we saw, a freshman Jasmine Hanna stepped up huge in that last game, almost winning a set in total points herself, 23 kills.
Yeah.
It's been impressive how she stepped up, and I think these seniors realize it's their last year and it's time to get it going.
And you can see some similarities in this graphic we have of last year's team and this year's team. 28-2. This team's already 23-2. But I think you look at that non-conference 12-1. They played better opponents this year, and they played more of those teams than last year. And so we'll see if this motivates a team like CSU in 2014, or if it does what it did last year, where it just kind of demotivates them and puts them in the slumps. But I think they've already had losses this season, so it's something to learn from, and they can come together as a team. And I think players like Jasmine Hanna will be key. As we saw, 23 kills. That is major. We didn't hear much about her in the middle of this season. Early in the season, she was the talk of the town, just, oh, have you seen this freshman Jasmine Hanna? And then she kind of drowned it out, and now she picked it back up. 23 kills, a career high for her. I think that is integral for this team down the road in postseason play, because they will need to get they don't have very many postseason veterans from this volleyball team.
Yeah, and I think this was just the lulls of the season. This team has been just dominating every game they've had, and it's easy to get complacent as the season goes on, and I think that's what you saw with this loss. This team possibly had their mind in the game and wound up losing this game. Obviously, this road streak, something went wrong, because this team has the ability to sweep every Mountain West opponent they've had. We've seen it all season. So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this season plays out. Now that they've gotten a loss, are they ready? Is that fire lit under them to get them going?
Because they faced some of the tougher opponents in the Mountain West, and they faced them on the road. So as you say, it kind of lulled away, and then play some better opponents on the road. This is definitely, I would like to see this from this team to lose now with 6 games left so they can pick it back up. And I think they need to put the nails in the coffin, because 2.5 games, they slip up 3 more games this season. I mean, that could mean they lose a conference, and I think this season would almost be a wash. I don't think that will happen, though. I think they'll finish strong. And I'm excited for the postseason. And they're kind of somewhat still in the hunt to host a regional, and I really hope they do. But this definitely hurts their chances of hosting a regional.
I mean, getting the team ready to keep going in this season, getting this loss, it hurts them. But the main spot that hurts them is getting this loss for rankings to get into that tournament to be able to host a regional, as we've talked about before this year. Falling at this point in the year is a rough time because these other teams playing their conference games, they're playing those tougher schedules, and it makes it easier for them to rise above CSU's ranking now that they've dropped.
Yeah, definitely agree, Jeff.
All right. The season is officially underway for CSU women's basketball team that is predicted by AP voters to be the favorite in the Mountain West. On Thursday, the Rams played an exhibition game against Metro State and beat the Roadrunners 90-62. Ellen Nystrom finished the game with 21 points and 9 rebounds, and junior transfer forward Kiora Wary made quite the first impression by scoring 17 points and grabbing 8 rebounds. Despite the big victory, Coach Ryan Williams still believes the team has much more to improve on.
You saw some good possessions. You saw a lot of possessions that, whoa, what's going on out there? But I think as we get used to playing with the different lineups, and this team will only get better.
The Rams' next game will actually count against their record. They will be playing Hawaii on November 14th at good old Moby. And Patrick, this women's basketball team sure seems ready to have a great season.
Yeah, I think they will repeat. I'll have to agree with those AP voters with players like Ellen Nystrom. I mean, she had such a great season last year, and she was only a freshman, and she can only build upon that. And I think the team has gotten stronger. They didn't really lose too many players, and adding a player like Kiora, I mean, she's already putting up big numbers out there, so that was a huge transfer for this team. And yeah, I have big expectations for this women's team.
There's been a lot of talk about Kiara headed in the season, as we've seen in this exhibition game. She's already producing, and this team is returning a lot of players. Elin Gustafsson, Ellen Nystrom, Grit Ryder, all players that were key to the run last season for them winning the Mountain West regular season title. And I think those players are going to come up huge as this season goes on because they have more experience now. Gustafsson and Nystrom were only freshmen last year, now sophomores. They have that college year under their waist belt, and they're ready to keep going.
Yeah, and I mean, this team has unfinished business. They went to the WNIT instead of the big dance, and everyone was expecting when they won the regular season Mountain West that they would go to the big dance, and they lost in the Mountain West tournament in Vegas, and that was tough to see, and I think this team has a little motivation and some fire, and especially with players like Ellen Nystrom leading the way. This team wants to get to March, and they want to get to the big dance.
Absolutely.
There's unfinished business for this women's team.
Absolutely. It's the same as we see with this volleyball team. The Mountain West Conference is pretty weak for women's basketball in the Mountain West. And this team, it got a tough draw. They played a triple overtime game against Wyoming last year in the conference tournament, and they had tired legs. We saw it. They only hit 2 out of over 30 3-pointers they took against that Wyoming team. And then the next day, they had to go play Fresno. And, man, they really were – it was evident that they were tired in that game. They had no legs under them to get the shots off.
And I think that will give them experience down the stretch this year. They've been there. They've been in the Mountain West tournament, and now they're ready to take that next step because, you know, that first-round game, they should have probably blown them out. They were the 1 seed. So this time, I expect to maybe see some bigger wins this season, and the expectations will be very high. And you know what, Trav? I think everybody in Fort Collins is fired up for some CSU women's basketball.
They should be. They should be. And men's basketball is right around the corner. This team has transfers also. Stanton Kidd, a guy that transferred here last year, had to sit out, is going to be a big name. I'm telling you right now, Stanton Kidd is going to be a big-time player, 6'8", a lengthy guy that they were missing last year. Daniel Bejarano and J.J. Avila returning. I think they're going to have big seasons.
Yeah, and Bejarano, expecting big things out of him, and hopefully he can lead this team. Chemistry might be a question mark early. You know, with a lot of transfers, you're going to want to have some solid leadership, and if he can lead the way, I think it'll be a solid team, maybe even a bubble in March.
Yeah, well, that's all the time we have for you tonight. We don't have a sports show for you until next Monday, but you can get all of the highlights and stories at collegian.com.
And us sportsy people at Collegian Central have been working on a feature of 3 CSU football players.
Here's a sneak peek at how kicker Jared Roberts, backup quarterback Nick Stevens, and defensive back Bernard Blake got started in football.
You know, my dad was a huge impact on, you know, my sports career growing up. He was always the one, you know, pushing me to try new things, you know, whether it was hockey, started off in hockey, obviously soccer, baseball. I even tried basketball for a little while. And, you know, he was just always really supportive.
Freshman year, the coaches asked if what position I played. I said I played wide receiver mainly, and then I can play quarterback. And they said, so you're playing quarterback because we didn't have any other good quarterbacks. They kind of made me play quarterback, and I figured it'd be a good thing because if we didn't have another quarterback and I was playing wide receiver, there'd be no one to throw me the ball. So
The easiest way to describe football in the state of Texas is it goes faith, family, and football in that order. It's close to being a religion, you know, and everything that we do with the game, God's in a part of it. Before games we pray, after games we pray, and you see guys nowadays when they celebrate, they do something to recognize God, and that's just the way it is in Texas. You have religion, you have your family, and you have football, and that's really all that matters.
And you can check out the rest of our interview and the stories to go with it at panoramic.collegian.com.
Thanks for watching and have a great night, folks.